Yo, what's up guys? What is going on? Zach or Immortal here. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. Today, we are jumping back into the world of Call of Duty Black Ops 4 to take a look at the brand new update, version 1.04, that just went live across all platforms. This is actually a huge update. It is our first major update here in BO4, and it changed a ton. Now, in this video, we are just going to be discussing the changes happening in multiplayer, but if you guys do want to see the Blackout and Zombies updates that happened in 1.04, I will link the Charlie Intel article down in the description below that covers all the patch notes. Now guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy because we have a ton of multiplayer patch notes to get into. For starters, we've got a brand new featured playlist. Gun Game has been added to the game, and we also got Mercenary Deathmatch Mosh Pit, which is just replacing the Mercenary Capture Mosh Pit, so it's now TDM and kill confirmed, and it's no parties allowed. And then we also have Chaos Domination, which is a 6v6 version of Domination, and there's actually 3-second captures, so you capture flags way faster than normal. And we also have 150 point rounds, meaning that the first round goes up to 150 and the second round goes up to 300 rather than 100 and 200, so the games do also last a little bit longer. We also got an updated hardcore TDM and kill confirmed, where the player count was increased to 6v6, and you also have 2 specialists now per team, so 2 people can be recon or 2 people can be torque. You can have 2 of the same specialist on a team, which I personally enjoy because somebody always takes recon before me. I don't know how it happens, but at least now I have a second chance. Now we get into our weapon tuning, and there is a ton of this, guys. Seriously, pretty much every single weapon in the game was adjusted in some way, shape, or form. Let's start with assault rifles. Treyarch says we're dialing back some previous buffs to assault rifles to help close the gap in effectiveness between ARs and SMGs, allowing for SMGs to be more effective at firing on the move. So for starters, with ARs, we have a slight reduction to ADS move speed for all assault rifles, as well as a slight reduction to ADS in transition speed for all assault rifles. Our first weapon specific update has to do with the ICR-7. We have reduced headshot damage and a slight reduction to the reload speed. Of course, the ICR-7 is considered to be one of the best guns in the game. A lot of people thought it was going to see a major damage decrease to sort of help it be a little bit less overpowered, but really all we saw was the reduced headshot damage. That might make a difference. We'll just have to wait and see. Then on the VAPR, we have a reduced close range headshot damage, as well as a damage now falls off sooner update, meaning that these longer range kills are actually going to be a little bit harder to get with the VAPR now. And also high caliber was updated for the VAPR. It has a reduced headshot multiplier, eliminating the possibility of a 3-hit kill. So basically, the VAPR is going to be a little bit less effective to the head and also at greater distances. Then we move on to our submachine guns. Really, what Treyarch wanted to focus on here was the mobility. They said mobility is the primary strength of SMGs, speeding across the map to engage or disengage quickly. Some of the close-range SMGs were performing quite well, while others struggled to compete with the rest of the category. This week's balancing pass levels the playing field between SMGs. So for the MX-9, they extended all damage ranges, so it'll now do more damage at a greater range. And also, high cal was updated here. They reduced the headshot multiplier, eliminating the possibility of a 4-hit kill. For the Cordite, they extended all damage ranges, and also the belt feed operator mod was increased. The overheat rate was actually increased there, so that was updated as well. On the GKS, for the quad shot operator mod, there was a slight time increase in between bursts, so it won't fire nearly as fast with the quad shot operator mod on there. For the SOG 9mm, the dual wield operator mod was updated. They reduced the hipfire accuracy, so it won't melt nearly as fast anymore. Then we move on to our tactical rifles. Treyarch says we've buffed the ABR to be more competitive with the other tactical rifles, while stepping down its operator mod to keep it from becoming a crutch attachment. The Swordfish received some attachment adjustments as well. So on the ABR 223, they extended the maximum damage range. The repeater operator mod now takes longer to accelerate the fire rates. With the stock attachment, there is a slight reduction in movement speed bonus, and with Laser Sight 1 and Laser Sight 2, they improved the hipfire accuracy. On the Swordfish, they adjusted high caliber. They reduced the headshot multiplier, eliminating the possibility of a 3-hit kill, which would actually be a 1-burst kill if you hit all headshots on that. And then they also adjusted the pentaburst operator mod. They reduced the extra granted clip size, so you'll have to reload a little bit more often there. That concludes the tactical rifle updates. Then we've got sniper rifles here. For the sniper rifle updates, Treyarch said the other sniper rifles needed help to fight the King Paladin. We're giving these rifles reduced idle sway and upping their damage to help finish off wounded targets more consistently. They, in general, removed the turn sway when aiming down sights on all sniper rifles to better ensure the weapon reticle stays centered when turning. Then we've got our individual sniper rifle updates. Starting with the Paladin, they adjusted high caliber 2. Hitting the lower torso on a full TAC 5 boosted enemy will no longer be a 1-hit kill. That is a very oddly specific update. FMJ2 was also adjusted. They improved the damage against score streaks, and Stabilizer 2 was adjusted as well. Players can now hold their breath sooner after the previous hold breath ends. For the Outlaw, they improved the base damage from 110 to 130. They also reduced the idle sway and increased the base movement speed. And finally, they adjusted stock on the Outlaw. It's got a slight increase in ADS movement speed bonus. For the SDM, they increased the clip size from 10 to 12, and they also reduced idle sway. And finally, on the Koshka, they improved the damage from 120 to 140, and with stock, they adjusted the slight increase in the ADS movement speed bonus, similar to the Outlaw. Then, to wrap up our primaries, we got the LMGs. Treyarch said this: overall, some in the community have discovered that the Titan and VKM 750 are extremely effective weapons. And right they are. I've actually got videos covering the Titan and the VKM dropping later this week. Anyways, they continue to say, we're toning them down before everyone jumps on the bandwagon. I'm a little bit upset by this, I'm not gonna lie. While they'll still be able to face off against enemies, players will now have a more reasonable chance to defend themselves against these LMGs. So basically, some of the LMGs got a nerf there. Starting with the Titan, they reduced the headshot damage, they also reduced the hipfire accuracy, and they adjusted stock. They reduced the ADS movement speed bonus. For the VKM 750, they reduced the movement speed while firing. They also reduced the damage slightly, although they don't give specific numbers. And finally, they adjusted the Fat Barrel Operator mod. They reduced the bullet tracer size. Then on the Hades, with the Crossbar Operator mod, they reduced the movement speed and accuracy, and they also adjusted the steady grip. It now has an improved recoil mitigation. Now we move on to secondaries with our pistol. All pistols received a slight reduction to ADS in transition speed. The RK7 actually got a slight increase to the time between bursts and a slight reduction to reload speed. That does it for the pistols. Moving on to shotguns, this is what Treyarch had to say about the shotties. This weapon class is close to where we want it, with only a couple of specific attachments performing better than intended. Shotguns in BO4 play a different role than in past Call of Duty titles, and those who have practiced cat and mouse gameplay can be highly effective with them. For the Mod 12, the choked barrel attachment got an update. It has a one-hit kill range that was reduced. The Dragon's Breath Operator mod also received an update. They resolved an issue where the Dragon's Breath occasionally triggered incorrect visual and sound effects on targets. For the SG-12, the Strobe Light Operator mod was adjusted. They addressed an issue with the strobe light where it would remain on after death. And then there's also a live update coming soon to reduce the range at which the strobe light interferes with enemy aim. However, that is not live in game yet. And then we've got a major update to some attachments in the game, and these are actually effective for all weapons. Starting with Grip 2, they reduced the ADS flinch mitigation. On the Suppressor, they reduced the damage fall off ranges. On the Hollow Sight, they reduced the ADS recoil. On the Dual Zoom Optic, they reduced the ADS recoil. As well, on the Recon Optic, they also reduced the ADS recoil there. On the Elo Optic, they slightly increased the ADS recoil. And then we move on to Specialists. Ajax, Treyarch said they're providing more strategic options to counteract the ballistic shield and to help ensure the shield isn't activated too often in the same game. We've also got an update to explosives. They now apply partial damage to the front of the deployed ballistic shield user, and the ballistic shield now takes longer to earn. So not only will we see the ballistic shield less in game as far as earning it frequently, we'll also be able to deal damage to the front of the deployed ballistic shield if we use explosives. For Nomad, Treyarch wanted to encourage Nomad to work more closely with his K9 unit to maximize effectiveness, and they reduced the K9 unit's health by 10%. For Crash, they were happy with the support specialist and how he is so popular, but he seemed to be a little too effective as a score streak farmer, so they reduced the teammate used pack score event from +50 to +25. For Firebreak, the Purifier has been restored to its former glory. They increased the Purifier flame damage to be a guaranteed eventual kill against a player who doesn't have Tac Mask equipped. So if you do hit somebody with your Purifier, they will absolutely 100% die unless they're using a Tac Mask. For a Recon, we got a couple of updates. Intelligence win wars, and Recon is living proof. We have intelligence that Recon's intelligence is too good. Treyarch, I'm just going to go out on a limb here. You used the word intelligence a few too many times in that sentence. They said they were going to reclassify some of his sources. They reduced the sensor dart duration, and they also resolved an issue where voiceover would incorrectly state that the player's sensor dart was destroyed. I'm a little bit bummed about this one. Recon is my favorite specialist, and it hurts a little bit to see him get nerfed. Then we've got Torque here. Treyarch said many in the community have embraced Torque in innovative playstyles. Though he's struggling on a broader scale, we've bolstered the effectiveness of his barricade to ensure he stays relevant in team compositions. So for that, they increased the earn rate for the barricade, and they also increased the hit points for the barricade. And finally, they addressed an issue that prevented the TACCOM from telling the player that their barricade was taking damage. For Prophet here, our final specialist update, Treyarch said Prophet's Tempest needed an upgrade to stand a chance of competing with the rest of the specialists, so they greatly increased the Tempest projectile speed and they slightly increased the Tempest chain distance, and finally resolved an issue where being hit by an explosive charge would disable the Tempest charge, preventing further arcing. Then we've got updates to the spawns. In TDM, they tuned the spawn logic around how enemies impact where the game chooses to respawn the player, and they made individual spawn adjustments for slums, summit, militia, and firing range. In Domination, they made spawn adjustments for Icebreaker, Contraband, Hacienda, Payload, Gridlock, Slums, Summit, Militia, Jungle, and firing range. In Hardpoint, they tuned the spawn logic tuning around how the active hardpoint affects nearby spawns. This should provide more predictable spawns when battling over an active hardpoint. They also adjusted the additional global spawn adjustments to improve the ability for a player to anchor a location for their team's respawns relative to an active hardpoint. And finally, spawn adjustments were made for frequency and seaside. In free-for-all, spawn adjustments were made for slums, summit, militia, and firing range, as well as in control. As far as gear goes, the stim shot had an increased time to fully heal the player. Armor was also updated. They resolved an issue where armor protected from more damage than intended when hitting areas of the bodies that have damage multipliers, such as the head or upper chest. This primarily affects weapons with chest modifiers, such as sniper rifles or weapons with high cal 2. They also adjusted the acoustic sensor. They reduced the range at which sprinting enemies are detected, and then they also updated the perks. Seriously, Treyarch went all in for this update. For Dead Silence, they reduced the player movement volume and distance that players equipped with Dead Silence could be heard by enemies. The intention for Dead Silence is not to be completely silent, but also not to allow enemies to hear your movement from longer distances. For Engineer, they updated the Extraction Helicopter in Heist. It'll no longer be highlighted by the Engineer perk, and they also updated Score Streaks. The Mantis, they resolved an issue where the Mantis could be destroyed by touching the out of bounds area on the map. They also updated the Dart. They increased the explosion radius and damage, and players can now use a second dart when earning 2 dart score streaks. Finally, here for score streaks, they prevented the strike team kills from contributing towards owners' kills without dying medals. So basically, the strike team will no longer count towards the nuclear killers and whatnot. Then we move on to overall gameplay. Treyarch says they have reduced the ranges required for long shot medals for assault rifles, tactical rifles, submachine guns, and LMGs. They also resolved an issue where the hard stop challenge could be reset before reaching 300. They've also resolved an issue where the marksman mastery challenge would not give 10,000 XP upon completion. Destroying friendly score streaks will also now not yield you any score, and players can no longer crouch or go prone while performing a gesture. Some game modes have received an update as well. They increased the XP earn rate in Heist. They've increased the amount of XP earned per kill in FFA. They've resolved an issue where hardcore wins would not be counted towards challenges, and an issue has been resolved in FFA where recon players could not receive vision pulse assist score. Silent plant options in custom games should now make planting and defusing bombs completely silent as well. Individual maps have also received some updates. Icebreaker, they adjusted some cover pieces to discourage players from spawn camping. They've also added cover to the lower respawn side. On Slums, they adjusted cover pieces to discourage players from spawn camping. And miscellaneous updates here, multiple issues that allowed players to get out of the map have been addressed. Theater mode has also received a little bit of an update. Treyarch said this: theater files recorded before this update will no longer be viewable due to significant architectural changes to the system. As noted in our previous major update, we will make every effort to keep instances of incompatibility to a minimum. They've added a watermark in the HUD that only displays when in theater mode, so basically now you know exactly when you're looking in theater mode compared to when you're actually playing in game. And finally here, for multiplayer, Treyarch did update the audio a little bit. They resolved issues that caused footsteps to sound muffled when they shouldn't be. And there you guys have it. Let me take a deep breath real quick because that was a lot of information. As I mentioned earlier, they touched on pretty much everything in the game. Multiple guns were adjusted, perks were adjusted, streaks, maps, everything had some sort of update, it seems like, with version 1.04. If you guys are still watching to this point in the video, almost 15 minutes in, be sure to give it a big old thumbs up, slap that like button, it would be much appreciated. And if you guys are new to the channel, make sure you go ahead and subscribe with your channel notifications turned on. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.